Hello everyone, I'm Vikrant Bhosale. I welcome all of you on behalf of the Unique Academy. Today we are going to discuss ethics paper 2024 and we will focus today on questions that are asked in theory section known as section A. So let's begin straight away. So this is the first question. The application of artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input for administrative rational decision making is a debatable issue. The focus is on how it is debatable issue. Now the question is asking you to critically examine the statement from the ethical point of view. So what is needed here is perspective in ethics. So let's look at some of the points. Of course, AI is a hotly debated topic these days and there was bound to be a question on it. म्हणजे याच्यावर प्रश्न येणारच होता. पण आता ethics and AI, how to connect to each other and what are the likely points? And now they are saying critically examine. It means you have to also highlight some of the positive aspects of AI, in what way it aids administrative decision making, but at the same time you have to also raise the ethical concerns raised by AI. Okay, so let me give you some of the points. First, key ethical issues that surround the AI. Let's look at one by one. AI systems are complex. Okay, so what does it mean complex? It means the way they make decisions, nobody knows sometimes how they reach the conclusion. So there are challenges in understanding the decision making processes. Okay, now unless you understand how decisions are being made, how can you rely on such decisions? That is the major challenge. Then third challenge which comes as a part of this is accountability. Means what? In administration, when human beings make decision, you know to whom to hold accountable. म्हणजे कोणाला उत्तरदायी पकडायचं हे आपल्याला ऑलरेडी माहिती असतं. But in case of such issues, say welfare applications, parole decisions, where some gray areas are involved, how can we assign such decisions to machines? How can we rely in these cases on AI? So this is the first challenge in case of transparency and accountability. Second challenge is raised in case of bias and fairness. So for example, AI systems rely on historical data, but there is a risk of bias in such data because the data might be fed by those people who were biased towards certain sections of community. So AI itself can be biased if it relies on such historical data to make the decision. Then, if we rely on such data, it may harm the practice of fairness. It may also contribute to existing social inequalities and it may widen them further. In addition to this, in order to practice fairness and impartiality in decision making, we need to have an objective perspective towards the data that is used by AI. So this is second ethical concern. Third is about human dignity and autonomy. Why? Because when you assign decision making to machine, it bounds to raise certain queries. For example, what would be its impact of AI on individual agency? Then will there be empathy or judgment in decision making? Of course not in case of AI. And individuals might be reduced to data points. What does it mean, reduced to data points? That we won't look at individuals who are center of the public policy as human beings. We will look at as mere facts or data need to be handled. And this will dehumanize the entire process of public administration. Fourth, efficiency versus ethical considerations. Now, of course, in public administration, efficiency is important, but not all the time. Sometimes, while achieving efficiency, it may happen that we may overlook the human aspect, or sometimes it may lead neglect to the demands or needs, necessities of vulnerable sections. So some of the points here, that can you overlook ethical nuances for the sake of efficiency? Second, how can we resolve the dilemmas where efficiency might overweigh moral responsibility? And third, what about the needs of vulnerable populations? So these are the things we need to keep in mind while employing AI. Now, what are the key takeaways? How you should conclude? Okay, of course, AI has benefits like efficiency, data-driven insights, objectivity it brings to the table. But there are ethical challenges like transparency, accountability, bias, or dignity of human being. So what is needed? This is solution here. Okay. Need for robust oversight mechanism, human intervention is needed while maintaining transparency about how decisions are being made. And we need to emphasize human-centered values in decision making. So human should be center of all what we are doing by using AI. Now, what is the final thought? Final thought is about striking a balance between using AI and preserving ethical complexity is necessary. So I'm not saying, or the tone that you should have in this is that we should not completely do away with AI, but at the same time, we should not completely rely on AI. That needs to be taken into account. Okay. So this was the first question. Question B. Let's take a look at question B. Ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding individuals and organizations towards morally responsible behavior. So the focus on what? Morally responsible behavior, and it is guided by ethics. Now, what is the question? Explain the key dimensions of ethics that influence human actions. So the focus is on dimensions of ethics which have impact on human action, and discuss how these dimensions shape ethical decision making in the professional context. So you have to also mention examples where profession is guided by ethical dimensions. Okay. So generally, as a subject of ethics, we focus on certain dimensions. One of the dimension, let me write here, is consequences. Okay. So if you study this determinant, it gives rise to two dimensions. One is collective welfare, and second is democracy. Okay. Second dimension is intention. In this, you get two dimensions when you study deontology as a part of intention. One is rights, and second is justice. Okay, for that you need to study thinkers like Immanuel Kant and John Rawls. Third is virtue ethics. In virtue ethics, you get dimension like golden mean. What is virtue? What is vices? Then eudaimonia. Its meaning is human flourishment. Okay. In addition to this, we also focus on core human values. But since it is talking about professional context, it should also focus on professional values. So in our case, civil services values that are mentioned either in syllabus or given by Nolan committee. Okay. So in this, you have to focus and explain the connection between ethics and human behavior. So let's look at some of the points. Okay. So core ethical dimensions that are taken into account as far as human behavior and professional context. For example, there are certain principles and values which guide human behavior like honesty, integrity, fairness, respect, and justice. They are important in any area of life wherever you go. That's why they are known as core human values. Then individuals also learn how to differentiate between right from wrong, especially in case of complex situations. It is also important in case of professional reporting and credibility. For example, transparency is everywhere important. You go to any profession where the professional need to be transparent with the client to whom he is providing service. Second element is accountability and responsibility. These are the key values which are often preferred in those professions which have public importance. For example, civil services. So what does it involve? One is taking responsibility for actions and outcome. Now, this is not only important for professional life, it is also important for personal life. Ensuring ethical decisions that align with the organizational values. So each organization has its own value set. For example, if you go to military, it has its own value set. If you go to civil services, if you go to the profession of lawyer or advocate, it has own value set. But in any profession, these are the indispensable values. Next example is managers being answerable for team decisions. So manager who provide leadership, they take accountability for the decision made by the team because they are the leader, and they are responsible for what happens when team acts. Next set of values which we obtain from ethics is justice, autonomy, and beneficence. Now, what does justice mean? Justice means people should get what they deserve. So it implies equal treatment, but it also implies equitable treatment. Okay, so here, equitable distribution of resources and conflict resolution. Okay, so in this you will find policies like positive discrimination policies, right, which allow government to make welfare policies in favor of least well-off section of the population, like marginal communities. Then second, respecting autonomy and ensuring respect for people. For example, individuals have the rights to make choices concerned with their own life, that we respect. And second, we also ensure that certain matter need to be confidential because it is closely connected with the consumer's privacy. So look at these dimensions of ethics which have close impact on our behavior. Then beneficence is there. Beneficence का मतलब क्या है? That it should have your action should have a positive impact. It should promote well-being and welfare of the people, and it should not lead to harm. For example, healthcare and corporate social responsibility concept. Okay, so for example, doctors by their profession are bound by Hippocratic oath, whereby they take an oath that they would not deliberately harm the patient. So these are again dimensions of ethics. Now conclusion. Let's look at application. Balancing competing values in decision making is important. Sometimes some values may clash. For example, collective welfare may clash with individual rights. So ethics dimension help us to balance these competing values, and it also highlights importance of transparency and avoiding conflict of interest. So what is conclusion? That there are key dimensions of ethics that guide our ethical behavior, and they are essentially for fostering trust, fairness, and integrity in organization as well as society. So these are the final statement you should write in conclusion, that why dimensions of ethics are important not only in professional conduct but also in person, because they build trust which is necessary in social interactions. So this is second question. Now question 2a, read carefully. It is not enough to talk about peace, one must believe in it. And it is not enough to believe in it, one must act upon it. Now this is mere a statement. Now, how it is connected to the question? In the present context, the major weapon industries of the developed nations are adversely influencing continuation of the number of wars for their own self-interest. So focus is on whom? Weapon industries. Okay, and what they are doing? They are influencing continuation of number of wars. Why? For their own self-interest. Okay, so these are the key words you should connect to each other. Now, question, क्या question है? What are the ethical considerations of the powerful nations in today's international arena to stop continuation of ongoing conflict? So you have to explain the ethical consideration that should be employed for what purpose? To stop the continuation of the ongoing conflict. By whom? Powerful nations. So it is the responsibility of those who are powerful to stop the ongoing conflict, and what ethical dimensions they can use in the context of this statement and the role of weapon industry who fuel the war to further their self-interest. So this is the major demand of the question. Now let's look at some of the key points that we should employ to write the answer. Okay. So what are the responsibilities of the powerful nations? One is to promote peace and not profit from the war. Okay, so what is implied here? Because these nations are powerful, they already have a lot of resources, so they should not rely on war, or they should not let companies to rely on war to earn the profit. Second, we should also highlight that diplomatic solutions are important rather than promoting arms sale. Okay, so it is in the hand of powerful nations to choose one over the other. That is implied in these 2 points. Okay. Second, non-maleficence and human rights. What they should care about is, one, do no harm principle. Okay. So sometimes arms sale leads to violence and it leads to denials of human rights of innocent citizens. So what is needed is, they should weigh the human cost of the conflict. At the same time, whenever war happens, the priority should be given to protect the innocent civilians. And this should be driven, or this powerful nation or their group should be mainly responsible for this. What are the other things they should promote to stop the ongoing conflict? One is, they should focus on global justice and fairness. Many times, whenever war happens, developing countries are more harmed than developed countries. So there is inequality in war impacts. This should be taken into account. At the same time, global justice is also important, because not all nations are capable enough to defend themselves. So powerful nations should not assume the role of onlookers or bystanders. They should actively intervene where a less powerful country is suffering due to the hegemony of powerful nation. Second is transparency and accountability. Okay, so whenever arms sale happen, powerful nation should ensure that there is a transparency in arms sale, and there should be accountability if any of the weapons that are purchased cause serious harm to the human rights. So accountability element. Then they should lead by example. Okay, powerful nation have this onus because they are powerful, and there should be international bodies like United Nations or United Nations Security Council, or for that matter International Court of Justice. We should take initiative to intervene and stop the war before it escalates into a bigger human right issue. Moreover, what about companies which profit due to such arms sale? One, they have CSR, corporate social responsibility, so they should be accountable for the arms they sell. At the same time, they have obligation to prioritize human welfare over profit under CSR. Then there should be international cooperation, and under this there should be disarmament effect. So there are various bodies which are actively trying to contain the number of arms in the world, and the number of technologies that are being transferred to the nation. So that should be done. And finally, you can conclude your argument by focusing on or giving importance to peace, human rights, and accountability over profit. And this is essential for a peaceful future, because if we don't stop just for the sake of profit, there is a likelihood that we may endanger the entire existence of the earth, because today nations are equipped with very powerful and deadly weapons like nuclear weapons. So this is how you can conclude by focusing on peaceful future. Second question is about global warming and climate change. The focus is on that. Let's look at question. Global warming and climate change are the outcomes of human greed. Okay, so cause is human greed. In the name of development, indicating the direction in which extinction of organisms, including human beings, is heading towards the loss of life on earth. So this is mere statement. What is the question? How do you put an end to this to protect life and bring equilibrium between the society and the environment? So the focus or the demand of the question is to protect life and bring equilibrium between society and the environment. So there is need to be balance between environment and the developmental needs of the society. And they are asking, how do you do that? What measures would you undertake? What principles you would employ? What kind of policies you would create? And what kind of goals you would pursue to make this happen? So let's look at some of the important points. Okay, so first, of course, you can employ the concept of sustainable development. Okay, so what does it mean, sustainable development? A development which happens without harming the future generation or their needs. Okay, so for that you would promote renewable energy and eco-friendly infrastructure, right? At the same time, we will focus on circular economy and we will respect the limits of environment. Circular economy का मतलब क्या है? जिसमें recycling ज़्यादा होता है, जिसमें waste कम होता है, जिसमें reuse भी ज़्यादा होता है और जिसमें हम कार्बन फुटप्रिंट को रिड्यूस करने की कोशिश करते हैं. ओके, सेकंड, स्ट्रॉन्ग एनवायरमेंटल पॉलिसीज होगी. सो इसमें स्ट्रिक्टनेस भी होगा. वी विल नॉट बी लैक्स अबाउट इमिशन एंड लैंड यूज, हाउ इट हैपेंस. एंड टू मेक इट हैपन कंस्ट्रक्टिवली, we will promote international cooperation through agreements like Paris Accord. So here there is an international dimension as well. Third is conservation and economic restoration. So we will, through various laws like Forest Conservation Act and national parks and biodiversity hotspots, we will try to protect biodiversity, and we will also promote reforestation and habitat protection. So there is a scope to write more measures. Let's look at some of the more measures. For example, shift in consumption pattern. So it is not only about legal instruments that are going to help us, it is also onus of individuals to adopt a sustainable and eco-friendly lifestyle. For example, reducing meat, then reducing plastic, reducing waste, using eco-friendly products, and getting environmental education. Then what about organization responsibility, corporate responsibility? That they should be held accountable for environmental impact, and green practices should be promoted and encouraged, and there should be transparency in what they do, particularly in supply chain. Also, there needs to be a cultural and ethical shift. Okay, we should actively discuss and promote ethical view of environmental protection. So this is important. And also we need to incorporate environmental ethics into education to shift societal values. So far, this has not been a serious concern for humanity, but it needs to be now before it becomes too late. Then, there are few more principles we can put into our answer. First is equitable development and social justice, because what happens, people who are at the bottom of the social ladder, because they don't have access to resources, they rely more on natural resources. But their reliance on natural resources harms the environment more. So what is needed is they should be given equitable access to resources, particularly for vulnerable communities. For example, LPG subsidy. Okay, so that they would not rely on forest produce for fuel. Okay, so promoting equitable resources distribution for sustainability. Second, global collaboration. So there is a need to have a collective global solution and cooperation, and support developing countries in climate mitigation efforts. Why? Because developing countries often don't have access to those cutting edge technologies which can help them to mitigate the global warming and climate change. Okay, so in conclusion, achieving balance requires radical transformation in living and consumption. Okay, the way we live and the way we are consuming resources is severely and seriously harming the environment. So it also requires a change in mindset. Also, there is a need to have a collaboration among governments, corporations, and individuals, and that is essential for sustainable future. So this is nothing but a summary of what we discussed, who are the stakeholders and what they need to do to make a sustainable living possible, or to make a balance between needs of society and environmental conservation possible. Okay, so this is summary, this is conclusion. Now, this type of question is asked every year, that is handling quotes. In this, every year UPSC gives students 3 quotes, and they are asked to interpret the quote according to their own point of view or in the present context. So this year they have asked to interpret the quote, what this quotation mean to you in the present context. So let's look at first. Okay, first quote is by Swami Vivekananda. Okay, learn everything that is good from others, but bring it in and your own way absorb it. Do not become others. So what does this quote imply here? What does Swami Vivekananda say through this quote? Here, he highlights an important aspect of interdependence in the society. Okay. So, here, learning is important from others, but we should not lose our own uniqueness. Okay. So, what is cultural context here? Yes. Cultural context is how it is relevant in present context. In present hyper globalized world, the world is hyper globalized or increasingly globalized. Okay. Every day, people are coming into contact with other ideas, other cultures, other ways of living. And most of the time, Western ways of living are fastly adopted. There is a race towards it. But what Swami Vivekananda is saying that while we can learn better things from others, we should also learn what is our core identity. And we should not lose that. So here, okay, we should also focus on preservation of our personal and cultural identity. What is unique to us as a person as well as a society, we should learn that and we should not lose it at all cost. Second, potential risk. Okay, क्या risk है ऐसा करने की? It may lead to erosion of local traditions and individual creativity. क्योंकि अगर हम ग्लोबल आइडियाज को एक्सेप्ट करेंगे और सिर्फ उनको ही एक्सेप्ट करेंगे तो हमारे लिए हम में अच्छा क्या है वो हम भूल जाएंगे. सो वी वोंट बी क्रिएटिव, वी विल नॉट बी थिंक डिफरेंटली. आर यू गेटिंग द पॉइंट? सो स्वामी विवेकानंदा इज आस्किंग फॉर फ्यूजन ऑफ global ideas with the local ideas. While adopting best practices is beneficial, losing one's unique perspective is a concern. Okay. So, of course, it is necessary that we should adopt global practices because they help us to learn something different than our culture. But that doesn't mean it should happen at the cost of our culture. So, what is call for action here? Engage thoughtfully with diverse ideas, and we should internalize wisdom that we learn from them. Foster growth, okay, but at the same time, we should be rooted in one's own identity. At the same time, we should not forget who we are and what is our culture. Okay. Conclusion. Vivekananda's wisdom encourages individuals and societies to embrace knowledge without becoming mere replicas, promoting a harmonious balance between innovation and authenticity. Okay. So, what Vivekananda is suggesting that imitation without application of mind is harmful. So, while we emit or learn from others, imitate the others, we should also question who we are. We should also investigate who we are, and we should also try to retain better elements of our own culture. That is the crux of this quote, and that's how you should highlight it in present context. Okay, let's move to second quote. This quote is by Sardar Patel. Faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Faith and strength both are essential to accomplish any great work. So, Sardar Patel is highlighting what are the key essential values or key essential elements that we should keep in mind whenever we are trying to achieve something great. Okay, and what are these two? One is faith and second is strength. Faith without strength doesn't make difference. Okay, so let's look at some of the points which we can include in our answer. First, the focus is on interdependence, highlighting the interdependence between these two elements. One is not enough without the other. So let's define these elements. What is faith? It is belief, conviction, or hope in a cause or ideal or goal. So, for example, most of the civil service aspirants start preparation with the faith that if they work hard, they can easily pass the exam. But what they need is strength. What is strength? The power to act, endure, and persist. Okay. So if a civil service aspirant has a faith but doesn't have enough strength to carry on the task he has undertaken, would he achieve the success? Would he achieve the greatness? Of course not. So you can write this example as well. What is contemporary relevance? In contemporary relevance, there are certain issues. For example, social justice, environmental sustainability, okay, where faith is essential, but it is not enough, okay. For example, activists must couple their belief in climate change action and sustained efforts like lobbying and raising awareness. So, mere faith is not important. These activists who are fighting for this cause must carry on despite difficulties. So, what is this call to action? Combine inner conviction with active engagement to drive meaningful change. Okay, so सिर्फ conviction काफी नहीं है. There should be sustained effort despite difficulties, and achievements, whether personal or collective, require unwavering belief and the courage to face obstacles. So जो भी great है वो शॉर्ट टर्म में अचीव नहीं होता है, उसके लिए बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म स्ट्रगल लगता है. ओके, सो वो स्ट्रगल कैरी ऑन करने के लिए स्ट्रेंथ भी चाहिए. नाउ व्हाट इज कंक्लूजन? In times of challenge, the union of faith and strength is critical for progress. It is especially important, this combination, when we are facing severe backlash, when we are facing severe adversities or harsh challenges, harsh situation. Okay, so this is what is highlighted by Sardar Patel. You can imagine the time in which he was saying that it was the time when the country was partitioned and there was likelihood of more, princely states separating from India and declaring themselves independent. So he had both faith as well as strength to unite India under one nation. Okay. Now, third quote. It is by Immanuel Kant. I told you earlier that Immanuel Kant belongs to the school of thought of deontology, where intention is more important than consequences. So what does he say? In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. Okay, so violation implies what? Action that is contrary to law. Okay. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. So thinking, okay, thinking is problematic, then you are not doing ethical action. So in ethics, not only action matters, what matters is thinking or intention. How? Let's look at some of the relevant points. Key insight. Why is he saying that? Okay, he is trying to differentiate between legal guilt and ethical responsibility. Now keep in mind the aspect of it. Okay, law cannot give each and every answer, or law cannot provide answer to each and every situation. There are certain gray areas. Even in civil services, many times a civil servant is expected to exercise one's own discretion, where law is not clear about what needs to be done. And that is why law itself gives discretion, of course limited, but discretionary powers to civil servants. So in that case, ethics can help us. So legal accountability is not enough. Okay, of course legal accountability is needed, but it is not enough. Ethical guilt is also necessary. Okay, especially when there is a likelihood that our actions may infringe on the rights of others. So human right is one of the dimensions that we obtain out of the categorical imperative of the Immanuel Kant. What is contemporary relevance? Okay. Many times in today's context, people are happy with the mere compliance of the law, and they are more focused on what they have right to do rather than what is right to do. Okay. Now, what they have right to do is given by law. What is right to do is told by ethics. Kant challenges us to reflect on our intentions. So Kant says mere acting good is not enough. What are the intentions that we have to act good? That is also important. Why? For example, fearing legal consequences may prevent theft, but harboring the desire indicates moral guilt. Right? So what is call to action? Morality is about cultivating virtuous intentions, not just compliance. In a complex world, ethical dilemmas require commitment to integrity beyond legal standards. Now see, let me tell you, from deontology's perspective, morality is not something which can be imposed from outside. Morality is something which is created from within. Okay, a man chooses morality because the major assumption of deontology is a man is a rational animal. That is, a man is capable of choosing right action for the right reason. Okay, so what it is saying that don't rely on laws to decide what is right and wrong. You should also employ your reason. You should also carry a right intention to do right action. Now, what is conclusion? Ethics should guide behavior towards greater moral responsibility for both individual as well as society. So, not mere law should be foundation of our behavior or social existence. Ethics should provide foundation to the law, which in turn should provide foundation to the civilization. So, ethics should be foundation of all this. That is what Kant is trying to suggest. Okay, now fourth A question. The concept of just and unjust is contextual. So these are the keywords. What was just a year back may turn out to be unjust in today's context. Changing context should be constantly under scrutiny to prevent miscarriage of justice. Now this is important. Examine the above statement with suitable examples. Now, in the question which was about dimensions of ethics, I told you in subject of ethics there are three dimensions: consequences, intention, and situation. The another word for situation is context. Okay. Now the theory which emphasizes on situation as one of the determinant of ethics is virtue ethics theory. Okay, it says that a virtuous person decides what is right according to the given situation. So same statement is implied here. What may be a just action in one situation may not be just action in other situation. Why? And why we should be, constantly under scrutiny, this changing context, and what if we don't do it, how it would lead to miscarriage of justice, that we need to explain. Okay, this is the context within which statement need to be examined. So let's look at some of the points. So what are the key concepts that we need to focus on? One is justice is a contextual, evolves with social, political and cultural changes. Okay, what was just a year back may turn out to be unjust today. This quote you can employ. Implication kya hai? Constant reevaluation is necessary to prevent miscarriage of justice. So constant reevaluation of what? The rules that we use, they should not belong to antiquities, right? We should constantly evaluate them, investigate them, and if necessary, change them. Okay. So how? And what are the examples? Example is slavery. Once upon a time it was legal and accepted. Now universally condemned. Women's right. Earlier women were denied voting right and that was thought to be just, but now we cannot do that, right? Reflection. Shifts in social norms demand scrutiny and revision of outdated laws. So social norms keep evolving. So the concept of morality also keeps evolving. And justice, or what is just or unjust, is a part of the continuum of moral universe. Okay, then take another example. In earlier, privacy wasn't given that much importance. The importance was given data collection. Okay. Now, in present digital era, people focus more on privacy and justice. Okay. LGBTQ rights. Historically, they were not allowed to marry or cohabit together, but now we are more focused on giving them equal rights as a society. So what is conclusion? Evolving understanding requires continuous updates to legal framework. Or you can add more example. For example, earlier when food security wasn't there too much, people were clearing forest to cultivate the crops. But now today, due to the emerging concerns like global warming, climate change, deforestation is considered as not just. So again, what is just and unjust keeps evolving according to the situation, according to the context. Say climate change, international law also. Okay, earlier the kind of strategies used by nations to fight against each other were accepted, but today strategies like chemical weapons are completely thought as unjust. Fourth big question. What does it say? Mindless addiction to form, the concept is form. Ignoring the substance, another concept is substance, of the matter results in rendering of injustice. So, it is connected with the concept of injustice. A perceptive civil servant is one who ignores such literalness and carries out the true intent. So what is needed is ignoring लिटरलनेस म्हणजे काय, शब्दशः जसे नियम सांगतात तसं काम करणं सोडायला पाहिजे. अँड कॅरीज आउट ट्रू इंटेंट म्हणजे नियम कोणत्या उद्देशाने तयार केलेले आहेत तो उद्देश सफल करणं हे महत्वाचं आहे असं जाणणारा सिव्हिल सर्वंट म्हणजे परसेप्टिव्ह. ओके, एक्झामिन द अबोव स्टेटमेंट विथ सुटेबल इलिस्ट्रेशन. म्हणजे आता हे कसं होतं हे विथ इलिस्ट्रेशन म्हणजे योग्य एक्झाम्पल देऊन सांगा. ओके, सो लेट्स लुक ॲट सम ऑफ द एक्झाम्पल्स. की कन्सेप्ट तुम्हाला जे फोकस करायचे ते मी मगाशी तुम्हाला सांगितले. डेफिनेशन पण बघा. फॉर्म म्हणजे आउटवर्ड प्रोसिजर्स, रूल्स अँड टेक्निकॅलिटीज. सबस्टन्स म्हणजे अंडरलाईंग ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह, इथिकल व्हॅल्यूज अँड पर्पज. तर हा डिफरन्स तुम्हाला कळाला पाहिजे इन ऑर्डर टू आन्सर द क्वेश्चन प्रिसाइजली. इम्प्लिकेशन काय आहे? परसेप्टिव्ह सिव्हिल सर्वंट्स फोकसेस मोर ऑन इंटेंट रादर दॅन रिजिड अधेरन्स टू रूल्स. सो इट इज नॉट सेइंग दॅट रूल्स आर नॉट इम्पॉर्टंट, but what is more important is intent behind the rule rather than rule themselves. So rules are means while intents are what? Ends. So ends should not be sacrificed for the sake of means. Let's take example. Okay, so there was once this case in Mumbai, Olga Telis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. In that, pavement dwellers, those who were living on the pavement, were evicted by Bombay Municipal Corporation, and the case went to Supreme Court. So technically, BMC had right to evict them, but Supreme Court denied that right by saying that the rule of law has outmost or foremost goal is public welfare, and the right to live cannot be trumped for the sake of technicalities. So in this, judicial intervention, okay, lead to dismissal of the case because it said that it hinders the justice. Second example, civil servants must prioritize broader governance objectives over rigid formalities to ensure public policy serves the common good. For example, an old age couple comes to collector office and it is in very much need of welfare initiative, welfare schemes. But if it is not found eligible under certain rules that are applicable to that scheme, so civil servant simply, instead of denying the benefits of welfare, should try to find alternative routes or alternative means to give help to the old age couple. Okay, so this is one example you can give here. Second point is role of civil servant, balancing procedural compliance with the broader goals like public welfare and social justice. And final thought would be procedure must serve the people, preventing rigid formalism from undermining governance objectives. So formalism का मतलब क्या है? Merely doing what is formally stated in rule of law. It is not that enough. In order to bring in good governance, what is needed is civil servants should understand the intent behind what is being stated in rule of law and should actually strive to attain that objective or achieve that objective. Okay. Okay. So this is another famous topic which UPSC is more focused on: code of conduct and code of ethics. Okay. What they are the sources of guidance in public administration. Both of them act as the source of guidance. Okay. In India, there is a code of conduct, while there is no code of ethics, as it is stated in second ERC as well. So you need to study second ERC, fourth report. So what is exactly asked in this question is, aspirants are asked to suggest suitable model for code of ethics to maintain what? Integrity, probity, and transparency in governance. So there are different models of code of ethics. If you study some of the models like Nolan Committee's models or public service code, so you can integrate these models and you can prepare your own model to give or write the answer. So let's look at some of the pointers here. Okay, definition pehle de do if space permits it. Then write down the purpose. Okay, what is the purpose? That is asked in the question. Okay, one purpose is given there, that we need to attain integrity, probity, and transparency in governance, and at the same time we should be able to differentiate between code of ethics and code of conduct. Why? Because question says that there is a code of conduct, but what we need now is code of ethics. So you have to highlight the limitations of code of conduct and you have to also highlight why we need code of ethics. But you have to do it in brief. Okay, so ये जो introduction है, that needs to be brief because you will have enough space to write about what are the model code of ethics that you want to propose. So what could be key principles of the core model code of ethics? Integrity, transparency, accountability, impartiality, professionalism, and respect for human dignity. Now, whenever you write this principle, also write what they mean. Okay. So, for example, integrity का मतलब क्या है? Honesty and avoidance of conflict of interest. Again, it is implied in Nolan Committee. So, if you read and study this definition, you will know what needs to be written in short. Okay. For example, impartiality मतलब fair treatment with bias, without bias or favoritism. Accountability मतलब responsibility for actions and outcomes. So all this is implied in definition. But again, considering the number of points they are asking, you need to make it brief. Okay. What are the guidelines you can incorporate in modern code of ethics? One is conflict of interest नहीं होना चाहिए, ऐसी situation नहीं आनी चाहिए. Second, resource use. Okay. जो गवर्नमेंट के रिसोर्सेस है वो सिर्फ ऑफिशियल पर्पस के लिए होनी चाहिए. Confidentiality, so government carries the sensitive information. Okay, so वो information confidentially रहनी चाहिए and rest of the information should be shared with the public for the good governance. Fairness and equity होनी चाहिए decision making में, because public administrator hold enormous power, they are likely to use in their own favor or for the benefit of their own kinsmen. So ये नहीं होना चाहिए. Truthfulness in communication, so it is the duty or obligation of public servant to communicate accurately and timely manner, and corruption free governance देना, ये भी होना चाहिए. ठीक है. So these could be the guideline. ये कैसे होना चाहिए implementation? One is training of ethics. Okay, ये automatical नहीं होगा. Whenever you recruit people, of course you check their value at the time of entry by using paper like ethics, but that is not enough. Training भी होना चाहिए. Then ethics officer होना चाहिए जो ओवरसाइट रखेगा, मॉनिटर करेगा whether people are behaving ethically or not. Generally, Indian administration में this responsibility lies with the boss of the department or head of the department. Then whistleblower की policy होनी चाहिए. For example, no matter how many ethical framework you bring in, some people would always try to deviate from it. So some people who are honest enough should be empowered enough to expose it by law. So we should have whistleblower protection law. Then periodic review भी होनी चाहिए code of ethics के to ensure that they stay relevant, they serve the purpose, and there should be consequences for breach of it. Okay, so अगर कोई code of ethics देने के बावजूद भी उसके तहत behave नहीं कर रहा है, so that person should face the music, should face the consequences. Next question is about BNS, भारतीय न्याय संहिता. Okay, इसका सोल क्या है according to question? Justice, equality and impartiality based on Indian culture and ethos. So UPSC is implying that BNS is rooted in Indian culture and values. Okay, so you have to focus on that. Discuss this in the light of major shift. अब major shift है, पहले क्या था और अब क्या है. From a doctrine of punishment, पहले doctrine of punishment था, punishment पे ज्यादा विश्वास था. अब हम किस पे ज्यादा विश्वास दे रहे हैं? Shift to justice in the present judicial system. So अभी जो है वो justice है. Now what is the difference between punishment and justice? Punishment is more like retributive, जिसको हम बदला कहते हैं, revenge. Are you getting the point? While justice is more restitutive. Restitutive means reformative. आदमी को चांस दिया जाता है खुद में सुधार लाने का. That is reformative or restitutive. That is the principle. So ये keywords ध्यान में रख के आपको आंसर लिखना है. So how does that happen? Okay, डिस्कस करना है आपको. So let's look at overview. क्या क्या overview है, क्या क्या प्रिंसिपल है, ये पहले दिया है. जस्टिस है, इक्वालिटी, इम्पार्शियलिटी है. इसमें आपको ये भी बताना है as stated by the question that there is of course roots of Indian culture and ethical heritage and there is a shift. ये इंट्रोडक्शन में होना चाहिए. बाद में पहले का फोकस क्या था ये आपको बताना है. ओके, रिट्रीब्यूशन था rather than rehabilitation और रिफॉर्मेशन. इसका इन्फ्लुएंस किससे आ रहा था? कॉलोनियल रूल से आ रहा था. सो ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज अ कॉलोनियल लीगेसी. Okay, and that is also mentioned in second ARC. Still some of the laws belong to colonial period. For example, Official Secrets Act, Sedition Act. Okay, then resulted in overcrowded prisons. So यहाँ आप statistics दे सकते हो that how much our prisons are overcrowded and there is neglect of underlying causes of crime. So crime सिर्फ हो रहा है और उसको हमें पनिश करना चाहिए, यही हमारा थॉट प्रोसेस रहा है, ना कि वो क्यों हो रहा है और उसको हम कैसे प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं. ओके, व्हाट आर द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस? ये वर्ड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, आपको लिखना है रिसिडिविज्म. Recidivism means a criminal after coming out of prison again slides back to crime, again goes back to crime. That is recidivism. Naturally out of prison अगर वो बाहर आता है तो अच्छा आदमी बनना चाहिए, but the way our criminal justice system operates, it makes a person more criminal rather than a reformed person. That is what is claimed. Okay, so cycle of recidivism due to lack of attention to socio-economic and psychological factors. सो ये जो फैक्टर है जो क्राइम को जन्म दे रहे हैं, क्राइम को प्रमोट या इंकरेज कर रहे हैं, उसको हम निग्लेक्ट कर रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द अर्लियर अप्रोच. ओके, नाउ अब कैसा अप्रोच है ये तीसरे पैराग्राफ में आना चाहिए. दैट वी आर नाउ फोकस्ड ऑन जस्टिस सेंटर्ड अप्रोच, ओके, टू रिपेयर हार्म एंड रिस्टोर सोशल हार्मनी. सो कोई भी क्रिमिनल बाय बर्थ क्रिमिनल नहीं होता है, उसके साथ ऐसा कुछ हुआ होता है सर्कमस्टेंशियल और इंसिडेंटल, दैट वो क्रिमिनल बन जाता है, तो उसको रिपेयर करना चाहिए सो दैट सोशल हार्मनी वुड बी मेंटेन्ड. ओके, और उसमें कोर प्रिंसिपल क्या है? इक्वालिटी होनी चाहिए, सबको फेयर ट्रीटमेंट मिलनी चाहिए, नो मैटर हु यू आर, व्हाट इज योर बैकग्राउंड. इम्पार्शियलिटी भी होनी चाहिए सो दैट देयर विल बी ऐसा इंप्रेशन नहीं क्रिएट होना चाहिए दैट लॉ ओनली फेवर्स पावरफुल एंड वेल्दी पीपल while it ignores the plight of poor people. So do you know there is one issue that is going on, that the bail laws in India are in favor of rich people and they do injustice with the poor people because they are connected to the property you hold, the money you have and the clout you have rather than who you are. Okay, and that is why Supreme Court time and again has highlighted the principle that by rule there should be bail and not the jail. Okay, but again the irony here is most of the people who are in jail, most of them are under trial because they cannot afford the bail. Okay, so focus कहाँ पे होना चाहिए? रिहैबिलिटेशन पे होना चाहिए. So जो जेल में है उनको एजुकेशन मिलना चाहिए, उनको ट्रेनिंग मिलना चाहिए, उनका साइकोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट होना चाहिए. ओके, बिकॉज वंस दे कम आउट ऑफ जेल, once they come out of jail, often they are not recognized or acknowledged by society, so they lack support, and because they have nowhere to go, they again go back to crime world. कम्युनिटी का इन्वॉल्वमेंट भी होना चाहिए. सो सम ऑफ द डिस्प्यूट्स, ओके, cannot be solved by judiciary alone. Some disputes are communal disputes. Okay, so इसमें mediation होता है, इसमें dialogue होता है, communal harmony होनी चाहिए, and then amicably we can resolve the dispute. Okay, and this is what aligns with Indian values of harmony and collective well-being. So Indian values में ये सबसे important है, and this is how BNS connects with the Indian ethos. Okay, so what is conclusion? BNS lays a foundation for compassionate judicial system focused on justice, equality and social cohesion. So आपका conclusion ऐसा होना चाहिए, BNS makes judicial system compassionate rather than ruthless or cruel. Okay. Please read this question. Look at the statement. In Indian culture and value system, an equal opportunity has been provided irrespective of gender identity. So this is the case now. Okay, so gender identity doesn't matter, whoso you are, as far as your gender is concerned, you will have equal opportunity to flourish. The number of women in public service has been steadily increasing over the years. So this is a statement. Okay, this is not a question. You have to understand the statement first. Now next part is question. Examine the gender specific challenges faced by female public servants. So पहले आपको challenges explain करने हैं, कौन से हैं? This is first part. And second, suggest suitable measures to increase their efficiency in discharging their duties and maintaining high standards of probity. So measure suggest करने हैं किस लिए? To increase their efficiency A and maintaining high standards of probity. So if you divide question like this, you know what to write and how to write, and you can precisely write your answer in 150 words. So let's look at some of the points we need to include in answer. Context दे दो पहले, किस context में ये पूछा है? Context is gradual increase in representation of women in public service in India. Okay, and this reflects commitment of the government to ensure equal opportunity regardless of the gender. This is what the statement says. So you have to introduce by that. Now focus क्या है? Despite progress. Okay, progress तो हो रहा है, नंबर बढ़ रहे, फिर भी क्या हो रहा है? They face female public servant face gender specific challenges. Okay, और उसका impact efficiency and probity पे हो रहा है. कैसे? Look at some of the challenges. ये point आपको mention करने हैं. एक है workplace discrimination. ओके, जहां जहां भी हायरिंग हो रहा है वो हायरिंग अनबायस नहीं है, बायस है उसमें. ओके, प्रमोशन में भी है, इवैल्यूएशन में भी है. मींस असाइनमेंट देते वक्त है, उनके काम का इवैल्यूएशन करते वक्त है. बहुत बार ये जो चश्मा होता है पेट्रियार्की का, वो लोग उतार नहीं पा रहे. ओके, दैट इज द मेजर चैलेंज. सो देयर इज इंक्रीजिंग स्टीरियोटाइप्स, उसकी वजह से उनका एडवांसमेंट नहीं हो रहा है, एंड दे आर नॉट गेटिंग लीडरशिप पोजीशन. दिस इज ट्रू नॉट ओनली इन पब्लिक सर्विसेज, इट इज ऑल्सो ट्रू इन प्राइवेट सेक्टर. सेकंड क्या है? वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. ओके, इट इज डिफिकल्ट टू बैलेंस बोथ द ऑब्लिगेशंस. सो सोसाइटल केयर गिविंग एक्सपेक्टेशंस एड स्ट्रेस. ओके, आज भी औरतों के ऊपर ये एक्सपेक्ट किया जाता है दैट शी इज द ओनली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर हाउस होल्ड केयर. ओके, सो ये नहीं होना चाहिए. इफ शी इज वर्किंग देयर शुड बी अनदर सपोर्टिव सिस्टम बाय विच हर ऑब्लिगेशन वुड बी टेकन केयर ऑफ, क्योंकि वो उसके नहीं सबके ऑब्लिगेशन होते हैं, लेकिन ये आज समझ नहीं पाया जा रहा. हरासमेंट एंड सेफ्टी कंसर्न. सो एट वर्क प्लेस बहुत बार हरासमेंट ज्यादा होते हैं, उसमें भी सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट ज्यादा होती है, और सेफ्टी के इश्यू होते हैं जिसकी वजह से वो कभी चाहे वहां काम नहीं कर सकती, जहां चाहे वहां जा नहीं सकती, एंड दैट लिमिट्स हर अपॉर्चुनिटीज टू ग्रो इन हर करियर. और क्या है? मेंटरशिप नहीं है, नेटवर्किंग नहीं है. So there are very few mentors who are ready to come forward and mentor female candidates, and उनका networking भी नहीं है because of the patriarchal mindset of the people present in the industry. Okay. और क्या करना चाहिए इसको ओवरकम करने के लिए? मेजर्स क्या होने चाहिए? जेंडर सेंसिटाइजेशन ट्रेनिंग होना चाहिए वर्क प्लेस में, राइट? पीपल शुड बी मेड मोर अबाउट जेंडर राइट्स, जेंडर इक्वालिटी, है ना, उनका अवेयरनेस बढ़ाना चाहिए, इंक्लूसिविटी होनी चाहिए, flexible work arrangement होनी चाहिए because of the other obligation. If somebody is not able to take over the responsibility of female candidates, then organization should show some flexibility so that work from home, telecommunication ये possible हो जाएगा. robust anti harassment policy चाहिए, जैसे अभी विशाखा एक्ट आया है which mandates appointing Vishaka committees at the workplace which would head the investigation if there is harassment at all. Then mentorship and networking program भी क्रिएट करनी चाहिए so that it won't depend on the person to take initiative, but it will be mandated by the organization or the law. And finally, leadership development initiative होना चाहिए जिसके लिए targeted training system हो. Then there is a need to support, supportive measure होने चाहिए at home as well as in society. Okay, and we need to collectively pursue the policies which empower female public servants. Okay, so goal क्या होना चाहिए? Contributing to a more equitable and effective governance system in India. So unless more and more women participate in public service, it won't be as effective as it should be. Okay, so this is second last question, and now last question of section A. Mission Karmayogi is aiming for maintaining a very high standard of conduct and behavior to ensure efficiency for serving citizens and in turn developing oneself. How will this scheme, okay, focus कहाँ पे है? How will this scheme empower the civil servants? ये स्कीम सिविल सर्वेंट को कैसे एम्पावर करेगी? किसके लिए? इन एनहांसिंग प्रोडक्टिव एफिशिएंसी and delivering the services at the grassroots level. So मिशन कर्मयोगी का ज्ञान आपको चाहिए कि वो क्या है और वो किस तरह से सिविल सर्वेंट्स के परफॉर्मेंस को इम्पैक्ट कर रही है. ओके, सो व्हाट आर द की पॉइंट्स यू कैन इंक्लूड इन योर आंसर. ओवरव्यू, पहले ओवरव्यू दे दो फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में, इंट्रोडक्शन में, कि उसका एम क्या है. टू इंप्रूव कंडक्ट एंड बिहेवियर, वो स्टेटमेंट में ही दिया है. फोकसेस ऑन इफिशिएंसी इन पब्लिक सर्विस डिलीवरी एंड फोस्टर्स पर्सनल एंड प्रोफेशनल डेवलपमेंट. ये एम है, ठीक है. ये कैसे किया जाता है? पहला है कंटिन्यूअस ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स अरेंज किए जाते हैं अंडर मिशन कर्मयोगी. ओके, सो इसमें क्या होता है? बिकॉज ऑफ दिस सिविल सर्वेंट्स आर taught modern skills which they can use in their work. Second, they can adapt to new government challenges. Okay, so governance में जो नए नए challenges आते हैं उसको adapt कर सकते हैं. Third, उनका overall job performance इसकी वजह से बढ़ जाता है. So ये पहला element. Second element, promotion of integrity and accountability. तो इसमें कैसे होता है? पहले एक स्ट्रॉन्ग इथिकल फ्रेमवर्क क्रिएट किया जाता है as stated by second IRC's fourth report. Then it leads to building trust with citizens, and trust एक बार बिल्ड हो जाए तो पब्लिक का परसेप्शन भी गवर्नमेंट की तरफ अच्छा हो जाता है. So what government does is perceived good by public, so public perception अच्छा हो जाता है. Okay, so this is promotion of integrity and accountability. Then autonomy भी दी जाती है. Okay, so इसमें क्या हो जाता है? ग्रासरूट लेवल डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रमोट किया जाता है. इससे क्या हो जाता है? कम्युनिटी की जो नीड है उसको कॉन्टेक्स्ट में रख के सर्विसेज दी जाती है, एंड इट मेक्स गवर्नेंस मोर रिस्पॉन्सिव. ओके, सो दीज ऑल आर फोकस्ड ऑन द स्टेटमेंट एंड द क्वेश्चन दैट इज आस्क्ड. सिटीजन एंगेजमेंट भी बढ़ जाती है. कैसे? Okay, civil servants are encouraged to engage with the citizens so that they can address and understand the local challenges better, and it fosters a sense of community involvement. So लोगों को भी लगता है कि हमें इन्वॉल्व किया जा रहा है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हमारी नीड्स को ध्यान में रख के काम कर रहा है. ओके, देन नेक्स्ट, कोलैबोरेशन पे भी इंफेसिस करता है मिशन कर्मयोगी. So where it is encouraged to promote across the different environments and different departments. So इससे क्या हो जाता है? प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग कैपेबिलिटी बढ़ जाती है. और इससे और क्या हो जाता है? इट एंश्योर्स इंटीग्रेटेड सर्विस डिलीवरी. सो सिर्फ एक ही सर्विस डिलीवर नहीं होती है, डिफरेंट सर्विसेज कैन बी डिलीवर्ड हार्मोनियसली बिकॉज डिफरेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स वर्क टुगेदर. हैव यू सीन इन म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज व्हेनेवर देयर इज लैक ऑफ कोऑर्डिनेशन अमंग डिपार्टमेंट? आई विल गिव यू वन एग्जांपल. ओके, रोड कंस्ट्रक्ट करने वाला डिपार्टमेंट है और इलेक्ट्रिक वायर्स ले डाउन करने वाला डिपार्टमेंट है. सो बहुत बार आपने देखा है व्हेन अ न्यूली रोड कंस्ट्रक्टेड बाय रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन डिपार्टमेंट, इट इज डग अप बाय द इलेक्ट्रिकल डिपार्टमेंट. ओके, और एमएससीबी. व्हाई? बिकॉज देयर इज अ लैक ऑफ कोऑर्डिनेशन. लेकिन मिशन कर्मयोगी में ये बहुत बार सिखाया जाता है कि ये कोऑर्डिनेशन होना चाहिए सो दैट यू कैन प्रोवाइड सर्विसेज इन अ हार्मोनियस वे. देन रेगुलर इवैल्यूएशन एंड फीडबैक किया जाता है मिशन कर्मयोगी में. उससे क्या जाता है कि लोगों को, सिविल सर्वेंट्स को क्लियर परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स क्या है ये मालूम होता है. ओके, सो इससे क्या हो जाता है? दे कैन एंगेज इनटू सेल्फ असेसमेंट एंड दे कैन इंश्योर देयर ओन पर्सनल ग्रोथ. ओके, अगर उनको मालूम है कि उनको कैसे मेजर किया जा रहा है, व्हाट आर द पैरामीटर्स दैट आर बीइंग यूज्ड टू इवैल्यूएट देयर परफॉर्मेंस, दे कैन एक्ट ऑन इट. ओके, एंड दिस लीड्स टू इंप्रूवमेंट. देन टैंजिबल आउटकम के ऊपर भी फोकस किया जाता है. ओके, मिशन कर्मयोगी में, which leads to what? Results over processes. Results are important, not only processes. Efficiency भी उसमें आ जाती है and accountability भी आ जाती है, and ultimately public service delivery भी अच्छी हो जाती है. Okay. Now conclusion. Empowering civil servants. तो कैसे empower किया जाता है? Providing tools, skills and ethical framework. और उससे क्या जाता है? Fosters a culture of continuous learning. So this is conclusion of Mission Karmayogi. Okay. Now, keep in mind whatever points I have told you need to be elaborated and explained with examples. I have just highlighted essential key elements that need to be part of your answer in answer for questions in section A. Okay, so I hope this session helps you to make sense of what UPSC is asking and what it is demanding as a part of ethics paper, particularly in section A. We will meet after some time for section B, in which we will discuss 6 case studies that were asked this year's ethics paper. Okay, so thanks a lot for your kind attention and patient listening. Okay, please feel free to contact us, comment on this video in comment section. I will try to respond to your queries if you have specific queries as far as these questions that are discussed. Thank you. Thanks a lot once again for your patient listening. Thank you.